Ashtanga yoga and Ashtanga vinyasa yoga are not the same thing. Okay? So, Ashtanga yoga, Ashtanga means 8 limb. So, Ashtau means 8, Anga means limb. Okay? And the Ashtanga yoga refers to some information written by a sage called Patanjali about 3,000 years ago in ancient India. Okay? And his thesis, you might want to call it, which was called the Yoga Sutras, outlined a process by which we could achieve, whoever the aspirant or participant was, the experience of yoga. So if you remember this morning, I talked about yoga being the experience of stilling the mind. Now, that's a very sort of basic description of yoga. Okay? What he did was he outlined an 8-fold path, an 8-limbed or 8-stepped path, which you've got there at the bottom of the page. Okay? Now, step 8, which is written there as Samadhi. Okay? So what I've got there is the complete self-realization or sense of bliss. So that represents the complete integration of your self with a small s, which is your individuality, with yourself with a big S, which is your higher self, which is your soul, spirit, higher consciousness, whatever you want to call it. And when that happens, there is a divine state of bliss and a falling away of all other things in the physical world. And it was called Samadhi, that's what they called it. And the path is sequential, so we start at the bottom and then we work up, theoretically. Okay? Now, Patanjali outlined this in the Yoga Sutras. If you ever wish to read the Yoga Sutras, it's a very interesting book. There's plenty of translations out there. I can recommend one if you want. Okay? Now, what most Western yoga classes focus upon, however, and for most of us where the entry point is on this 8-limbed path, is the 3rd step, which is called Asana. So if you look there, the 3rd step, which is called Asana, basically means posture. Okay? And most of the classes in the Western world are asana classes. And the asana are the postures, the bending, the stretching, the moving about. Okay? Now, the reason why for most people the entry point was asana was because very often people came to the yoga class with no aspirations of any kind of spiritual enlightenment or whatever it is that the yogis of ancient India were looking for. They came because of the body-centeredness of it. Okay? And the truth is that it's a good place to start. Okay? So if you think about your life being like an ocean, okay, and so your life is like an ocean, and you're this little boat floating on the ocean. Okay? Now, if you don't attend to your vessel, okay, if you don't look after your boat, if you don't patch up the holes in the sails or in the hull, okay, if you don't look after your boat, when there's a storm, your poor little boat is going to capsize, it's going to be thrown around. The journey is going to be a lot less pleasant than if you were actually to tend to your boat so that it was basically seaworthy. Okay? The more seaworthy your boat is, the easier it is to deal with the storms, the choppy seas, the ups and downs when they come along. And so it is with life. The more that we tend to the body, the more that we firm up the areas that are out of balance, the more that then when the choppiness of the ocean, which is the ups and downs of life, come along, we find it much easier to deal with. And that's what, for many people, is what's desirable about coming to a yoga class, because it helps them to deal with life. So it's a pretty sensible place to start, tending to our vessel. Okay? Now, the body itself is actually a map of our past. Okay? I mean, some of you may already know this, but the body represents a detailed map of the thoughts, all of your past thoughts, emotions, beliefs, all of the things that you've eaten and done are represented in your body. Okay? It's a map of your past. So if you have disease in the body, whatever it is, problems, imbalances, whatever it is, it will be as a result of something that happened in your past. And there's plenty of schools of thought that actually believe that those imbalances in the body, whatever they are actually as a result of because our Western way of thinking is very much geared towards unlucky, or it's either genetically in your DNA that you're going to get this problem, or you're just unlucky. Okay, now I don't believe in either of those things, and neither did the ancient yogis. They knew that if you cleaned up the body, you cleaned up the stuff that's stored in the body, you can actually rid the body of disease and damage, and it can actually heal itself. Because the body is an amazing thing, okay? The body is able to... So, let's put it this way, okay? So, you haven't got the same body that you had yesterday. Because the body is constantly renewing, okay? The body is... The physical cells are literally regenerating, okay? So, you don't have the same eyeball that you had 3 days ago. You get a new liver every 3 or 4 weeks. After 7 years, there is literally not a single cell of your body that was the same as it was 7 years ago. So your body is regenerating. So why does it deteriorate? Why does it decay? Well, it decays because the blueprint to which the body is regenerating becomes slightly skewed. Just as it is if you're short-sighted or long-sighted. The body simply doesn't regenerate quite the same way as it did before. And it doesn't do that because what ends up happening is stored within the body is a mixture of toxicity that we've eaten, or we've breathed in, or we've drunk. So, like I said, the body is a map of what you eat. So, you know what they say, that you are what you eat? This is very true in yoga, okay? So it might be that it's toxicity, maybe alcohol, maybe drugs, or whatever it is. Maybe that's what's clouding the body in terms of regenerating. Emotional toxicity, okay? Your emotions are stored within your body. I'll talk a little bit more about this in a little bit, okay? Yes, so essentially those two things, okay? I mean, there's also attached beliefs, but I'll talk about those in a little bit. And those things, particularly environmental and emotional toxicity, change the way the body regenerates. Okay, so if you've got cancer, okay, then you'll find that in 3-4 years or whatever, where you've got a tumour, okay, it's not the same tumour that it was a year ago. So why isn't the tumour disappearing? Why is the tumour regenerating? Why isn't it healing itself? And that's because the body isn't conducive to healing. So you're not creating an environment where healing can take place. And what the asana practice seeks to do is to create an environment where the body can be brought back into balance.